Now? Yes, okay. Good evening. Good evening. Do you hear me? Okay, good. Good evening. This is the October 10th, 2023 regular meeting of the Palo Alto Unified School District School Board. The board will recess into closed session to discuss the following agendized items: conference with legal counsel, existing litigation pursuant to Government Code 54956.9D1, Catherine Schroeder versus Palo Alto Unified School District. Conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation pursuant to Government Code 54956.9D2, PAUSD LD 232402, anticipated claim on behalf of a student. Conference with labor negotiators pursuant to Government Code 54957.6. Agency designated representatives are the Deputy Superintendent, Chief Business Officer, and Superintendent of Schools, and employee organizations are PAEA and CSEA. And employee discipline dismissal release pursuant to Government Code 54957B1. Are there any public comments? Okay, great. The board will recess and will reconvene approximately 6:30. Good evening. This is the October 10th, 2023 regular meeting of the Palo Alto Unified School District School Board. The board just met in closed session, and the board voted 5-0 to reject the liability claim student versus PAUSD LD 2324-02. The board voted 5-0 to reject the government claim Catherine Schroeder versus PAUSD. And the board voted 5-0 to approve a settlement agreement with employee number HR 101-023-10192. Before we get started with our regular agenda, if I can just take a moment of personal privilege to acknowledge the horrible atrocities and terror attack that happened in Israel this weekend, and the escalated conflict that continues to grow. We've already seen a tremendous loss of life, including innocent civilians in both Israel and Gaza, and that only seems to be getting worse. We know how directly connected many of our community members are to Israel and the surrounding region, and we are sure that they are suffering and scared and in pain and worried for family and loved ones. We have seen the rise in anti-Semitism locally and nationally, and many in our community now have added fear of no longer feeling there is any safe place at all for them. If for any reason, any student, any staff member needs support, there are wellness centers, therapists, counselors, teachers who are ready to be here to support you. And please take advantage of those. We are sure that, I am sure, that things will continue to happen in the coming days, that will continue to be challenging. You might even be surprised as to when something really impacts you, upsets you, scares you. Please use the resources that we have available to support you in any way we can. Thank you for that. Anyone else have a comment before we get started?
I just want to thank you, Board President DiBrienza. I support and stand by your words and sentiment, so thank you.
Just to add on, there are a lot of families who've reached out. There are a lot of families who are really hurting right now. As President DiBrienza said, the brutal terrorist killings of Israeli civilians, of students, of kids. A lot of families and a lot of kids are deeply impacted in our community. And even kids who may not understand what's happening will feel it on secondary trauma, and will feel it on a deep level. So it's very important, I feel, for me and for board members, even though we don't have the power to do anything about it, except we have the ability to say that we are here for you, that we support you, that the resources of this district that are here precisely for supporting families and kids in pain are here for you always. That's the most we can do right now, but acknowledging it and lending our support is something that is very important for us to do because we have the bully pulpit, we have the voice and the means to do it.
Yeah, thank you to my colleagues for your words. I echo them completely, and I've thought so much about what to say, and I keep deciding on things and then changing my mind, and what I keep coming back to is just how impossible it feels to live in a world where this kind of thing happens, where hundreds of innocent people, Israelis and Palestinians, lose their lives because our human race somehow still hasn't evolved beyond murder as a way to resolve conflict. And I don't know how to explain this to my children. I don't know how to answer their questions about anti-Semitism, about racism, about hate. I don't know how any of us can explain these things without getting curdled and warped. Because how do we explain how these things curdle and warp people just like us so that we no longer see certain people as fully human? I don't know how to talk about that. I wish I did, but I don't. And I know how many students and families are suffering. Please reach out. Please, we're here to support you. We have resources. Nothing is enough, but we are here for anything that you need.
Thank you for that. Can we get an approval of our agenda order?
So moved.
Hold on 1 second.
Second?
Oh,
Second?
I didn't hear that part. Student preferential board vote? Colleagues, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great. Okay. So we will start with our student board member reports. I don't know which one of you wants to go first. Have you been alternating?
I can get us started today. Both Gunn and Pally had our respective homecoming and spirit weeks, so we'll mostly be talking about that. But Gunn's theme this year was the game of life. So every day, different classes had unique, different dress-up themes. On Monday, our games were really cool in that both our brunch and lunch games, Stuff a Square and Tug of War, are things that all people and all classes can participate in. Whereas the rest of the grades or rest of the games, we had two new ones. One was Dizzy Dodgeball during brunch, and another Hungry Hippos during lunch, were for representatives from each class. The juniors and freshmen were buddy classes, and the seniors and sophomores were buddy classes. So it was really cool to just see this dynamic of upperclassmen supporting underclassmen and vice versa. I know for the seniors and the sophomores, we had a really cool buddy chant that we could basically pass off to each other. And it was especially cool when we could actually hear each other do it in the gym. On Thursday, we upped the hype with Night Rally. I know Ms. Segal, Ms. Ladomeric, and Dr. DiBrienza were a few of the judges that we had in our panel. And I know with face paint and finger lights, I personally had a blast performing. The seniors did come out on top that night. Shout out to Spirit Commissioner Miriam Kubursi and Sports Commissioner Beverly Lamis for being awesome MCs. The seniors dance was followed by the juniors, sophomores, and freshmen in terms of scores. Gunn then finished off the week with a football game against Cupertino. Though we did lose 20-13, our team kept Cupertino from putting any points on the scoreboard during the second half. Senior class vice president and I also emceed the halftime show, which featured our Gunn band, our dance team, our cheer team, and also homecoming court. Something new that we did this year was the homecoming spirit swap. So the weeks leading up to homecoming, our Green Commissioner, Angelina Roche, organized an event where upperclassmen could donate their previous year's homecoming gear to the next class, just in the name of sustainability, and since you don't really have a use for green tutus after you wear it for 1 year's homecoming. Another new thing that we did for homecoming week this year was Titan News Update. These announcements were started last year, and we usually put them up every Tuesday, but for homecoming week, we made them for every single day, where we basically detailed the scores, the games. We got to feature all the different classes' floats. Another shout out to our junior site council representative, Chloe Wang, for being an awesome co-anchor, and also our video commissioners, Ben and Naomi, for pumping out the edited videos super fast. Speaking of floats, freshmen built a miniature game of life board, sophomores built a tropical pirate ship, juniors built a scene that featured a lifeguard chair, a shark named Bruce, a hippie van, and a very cool wave. And last but not least, seniors built a Jeep you could actually sit in with the Statue of Liberty, a painted Mount Rushmore mural, a USA motorcycle, and a Capitol building that all students could then sign their names on. Juniors won first, followed by the seniors, sophomores, and freshmen. And lastly, to close out the week, Gun held our Neon Nights homecoming dance in the Titan Gym on Saturday. Dance commissioner Josh Kim did an awesome job planning it, and it was a really great way to end out the week. Interestingly enough, the scores ended in a tie between the juniors and the seniors. It's the first time in 10 years that seniors have not outrightly won homecoming. So it's definitely an interesting class to be associated with. But great job to our juniors, and even as a senior, I enjoyed every moment of the week. And I think it's really difficult to kind of understand how big the scale of homecoming week is at Gun, so I just have a few numbers to share. As a reminder, Gun's ASB is only made up of 33 students and 1 student activities director, our awesome Lisa Hall. We spent over $20,000 on all of the week's festivities, but we had 1,136 students attend our homecoming dance out of a student body that's just over 1,700. We had 580 students attend our Smash of Titans online gaming event, which is something that we started last year during Prime. We had 1,200 participants attend Night Rally, and we had participation from each class, administrators, teachers, the cheer team, the dance team, athletics, and the band. So it was a really great way to showcase everything that we have at Gun, and just making sure that everyone at Gun had a place during the week, whether they were dressing up, whether they were participating in games, whether they were even just watching and cheering from the audience. Other than homecoming week, we also had a staff development day yesterday, and according to Ms. Stratton, that went pretty well. Teachers are working toward implementing evidence-based grading in their classes, which will give students more autonomy in their learning and give them more entry points into what they're doing in class. And that's all I have to share for today.
Thanks. Sorry you didn't win outright.
Great. All right. Pally had a pretty similar week to Gun, basically just a whirlwind of spirit activities related to homecoming week and spirit week. We had a rally every lunch except Friday where we had it after school. We had really great turnout, tons of students showing up, especially to the after school rally, which we had really great turnout. And we had a ton of students. I won't say it went off without a hitch because we ended up having to move 2 rallies outside to the field because a volleyball got stuck behind the bleachers as we tried to move it in. So we're hoping those start to function again. So we ended up having to cancel some core Pally games, such as Hungry Hungry Hippos, which Chris mentioned, and we replaced that with some creative mix and matching, including tic-tac-toe, and the games were really a showcase of some of Pally's ingenuity, both ASB, not to pat ourselves on the back too much, and also among all these students who participate, really brave of them to show up in front of the whole school and play a game, guess a song and name that tune, and these kind of things that it can take a lot of courage, especially if you're not very good at hula hooping. On float building, thank you to all of the parents and students who showed up. It was a really great experience. I was there for most of it, and we had a ton of people helping out. I know the juniors made some popsicle runs after the parents ran out. And the culture at float building is actually a really big part of Pally because it's a great way to kind of show school spirit in a way that's not necessarily all about cheering. It's not about how loud you are, whether you're brave enough to do a dance. It's just about whether you're willing to put in time to make something great and show off to the school a little bit. And the juniors won float building with a first place score from every single judge, which I credit largely to the functioning t-shirt cannon and the bubble machine that we had on our pirate ship themed float. The seniors won the dance as usual. No big surprise there, but the sophomores had an especially strong performance, actually beating the juniors by 1 point. Kind of embarrassing, but what can we do? Final Spirit ranks, per usual, are in great order, though we did have some close moments early in the week. Another brunch event we had was the dress-up themes, where we all dressed up according to the themes, as Chris explained. Unlike Gun at Pally, all the themes are like on a class-to-class basis. So it was really interesting to see the unique ways everyone showcased, ranging from athletics on the first day where someone brought a full-size surfboard. Still don't know how they carried that around the whole day. In other news, we had our homecoming game against Menlo last Friday, which, like Gun, we also lost. 0-14 but most of those were in the last quarter. We had a pretty strong showing by our football team, able to hold out for quite a while. And in better sports news, our girls volleyball team remains undefeated in league play. We're hoping that streak continues. Our homecoming dance, also neon themed, with the interesting name Light Up the Nights. More creative than you, Chris. We had over 1,000 attendees, and we had record low levels of water being thrown in the mosh pit. So thank you to all the students who chose to refrain from that activity. Thank you so much to all these students, parents, teachers, everyone who put in hours and hours of work into making Spirit Week the fun cultural activity that it is. I know Mr. Gallagher, our student activities director, had a lot of, call it stressful nights, making sure everything worked, especially after the surprise bleacher breakdown. And then in general campus news, the tower building renovations are moving along. Ballpark expected completion is supposed to be around December. I know everyone's pretty excited to move in back to the old offices so we no longer have to live in the portables. We also had a student forum on multivariable calculus. About 20 to 30 students showed up to share their opinions and hopes for the future of multivariable at Pally. And it was really interesting to see everyone's viewpoints. Students are also currently preparing for the PSAT tomorrow. We're all super excited to get up early for that test. That is entirely unsarcastic. But yeah, so the credit to all of our teacher advisors who actually spent a while making sure everyone's tech worked. That was so fun on so many levels. And in other tech-related news, Pally Robotics got 4th place at the Cal Games Robotics Tournament, surviving despite a robot actually ramming ours. So yeah, it's been a really fun, really hectic week. I know a lot of ASB members had a lot of sleepless nights making sure everything worked, but the end result is a really wonderful time for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Austin, Superintendent's update.
It's just reminded me of how much fun it was to be a high school activities director. Some of it was fun. Some of it was pretty hard. It's so good though. When we talk about all the things we do in a high-end district with high demand and pushing in academics, that there's still room for fun and having these activity nights. So thank you for that. You mentioned the tower building. I've had several opportunities to walk through it, including just recently. It is going to be spectacular. So can't wait to see that. I also looked at the front of Gunn High School when I was over there yesterday. That looks less awesome right this minute, but it's going to be spectacular. But right now, that's a pretty significant project. Dr. DiBrienza, thank you for your comments and others. I will let the board know that you had a late invitation for a solidarity event at the JCC that's occurring tonight at 7. I did let the representative know that I am sure it would have been well attended by our elected bodies and myself, but that we had this meeting tonight. So know that that was passed along to them as well. That concludes my report for tonight.
Thank you. Next, we have open forum. As usual, we call on students first. You will have 2 minutes. Timer up here. We're going to start with Ezra Furtado Tawari, Fenton Zerlingo, and then Albert Lee.
Test. Test. Okay. Hi. After the MVC lunchtime forum, Gun Math IL Mr. Degler stated that all changes would have to go through the Math Steering Committee and that it is unlikely that a similar meeting would happen in the future. We strongly believe that including more student voices in the discussion should be prioritized, so another meeting in the future or more future meetings with students would be much appreciated. Additionally, I had a question about the steering committee. Is it a district or site level committee? If changes were to have to go through this committee, would this make MVC a district level issue? Due to the lack of transparency about this committee, we were unable to figure this out. We strongly believe that more information about the decision-making process should be available to students and community members through transcripts or records of meetings, like there are for the ad hoc committees on the PAUSD website. Thank you.
Thank you. Fenton Smerlingo, then Albert, and then Milka Morrison.
Test? Okay. As it is, students with cognitive disabilities are alienated from the rest of their classmates, and during the school day can often be seen doing janitorial jobs around Gun. I'm sure Gun is not an outlier. This curriculum at first seems to make sense. After all, a main purpose of public school is to prepare students for future careers, and so it makes sense that a student's cleaning would prepare them for a future job in custodial work. However, if PAUSD really wants to prepare cognitively disabled students for the quote-unquote real world, separating them from the rest of their generation is not the right way to do so. There are multiple teaching methods, including integrated co-teaching, that put special education students in the same classrooms as their peers. Not only does this benefit special education students, but it allows students not in the special education program to see their peers with IEPs as humans, rather than an alienated other. The approach to special education needs to change at PAUSD. Thank you.
Thank you. Albert. Albert, then Milka Morrison, and then Aurora Woodley.
Test. Hi all. I'd like to extend a question regarding the district policy to restrict skipping to one grade through purely PAUSD's means. The current system to skip more than one grade would require going to out-of-district UC-approved classes and paying money to take a pre-approved course. My question, therefore, is who does this policy serve? Is it not inequitable for the district to require paid classes for students to excel academically? Not all students have parents willing or able to pay for such classes, so such a policy is contradictory to the district's goal of equity. Thank you.
Thank you. Milka Morrison, then Aurora Woodley, and then Mike Linnosing on Zoom.
Hi, my name is Milka Morrison, and I am here with my friend Aurora Woodley. We are presenting the same topic, but we're presenting one half of each. So Aurora and I would like to talk about the increase of racial injustice in the Palo Alto Unified School District, specifically at Gun High School. We want to bring awareness to this particular issue. Every day as a Black student at Gun High School, I hear people making racist comments to me and other people. For example, in my geometry class, I was, doing geometry, and a white student came up to my table and used the N-word. He was quoting a TikTok. Doesn't make it any better, but he said it, and he was completely unaware and how hurtful and problematic this was. Some of these comments are meant to be malicious, but most of the time these comments are made to be funny, but are hurtful and problematic. In Palo Alto, we talk about having a great education system, yet we do not educate students on how harmful this speech is.
Thank you. Aurora Woodley.
Hi, my name is Aurora Woodley. I want to express my side of this issue as a white student.
Closer to the mic, please.
Oh, sorry. I'd like to express my side of this issue as a white student. I hear a lot of racist, ignorant speech around me every day, and it affects everybody. Every single thing that people say out of hate or out of pure ignorance makes the environment of the school feel exclusionary and aggressive. Why do we allow this to keep happening? Education on these topics and the harm that they can cause is extremely important. A solution for Gun High School and other high schools, is implementing some form of social justice training that's mandatory for all students to take to learn about these issues and racial inequalities. Because at this point, it's not just sometimes, it's more frequent than that, and it's really important, and we really need to teach people about this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you to you both.
Mike Linozing over Zoom, and then Stephen Davis in person.
Good evening, members of the board. I wish to begin by saying thank you for your support for the citizens of Israel with your kind words. I would like to congratulate the student members on a successful couple of weeks, even if some of their plans had to change on the fly. My name is Mike Lynn Utzig. I am simply reaching out tonight to introduce myself as the new Labor Relations Representative for CSEA, as my colleague is retiring after many years. I look forward to working with your negotiations team in the coming weeks to ensure a fair and comprehensive collective bargaining agreement.
Thank you. Last public comment is Stephen Davis. That's you. Sorry, I'll go closer. Stephen Davis.
Hearing aids. It is time to end the myth of general versus special education. There are 1,787 officially disabled students in the Palo Alto Unified School District. 1,069 covered under the Individuals with Disability Act, which most people know as special education, and 718 with 504 plans. That's 1,787 out of 10,509. Additionally, there are numerous students with dyslexia, probably between 3 and 7%, ADHD, around 9.8%, and other disabilities and impairments that aren't tracked or supported by our schools. Finally, there are uncounted students who may be eligible and need disability services, but don't get them because their parents are afraid of the unfortunate reality of disability stigma and discrimination. All of our classes are special education classes. All of our teachers and staff should be trained special educators. And on a separate note, I would like to thank the special ed department for starting a monthly newsletter to the special ed families. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to staff reports. 4A, we've got the equity update for Walter Hayes Elementary School.
All right, I'm going to ask Ms. Conway to introduce our guest for this evening.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Austin. Good evening, everyone. In our commitment to ensure that our students are thriving in our environment, one of our commitments was to provide intense supports, and equity-related actions towards our SWIFT plan, related to our SWIFT plan. And we talk a lot about our district-wide initiatives, but there's nothing more salient and important than the work that's happening every day on our school sites. So tonight we are featuring Walter Hayes and their amazing team to come share with us what work they are doing to align their actions to the SWIFT plan.
Good evening to Palo Alto Unified School Board, District Administration, and audience. Introducing our equity team, Sean Harvey, 4th grade teacher, Kendra Williams, transitional kindergarten teacher, and Michael House, 2nd grade teacher. And I'm Mary Bussman, principal of Walter Hayes. We are honored to present a snapshot of our work towards building a strong and sustainable approach to equity. In this brief overview, we will convey our commitment to this work. When you look into the eyes and hearts of our students, our children, you realize that it is a moral imperative to use our power and privilege as educators to crack open suppressive, limiting systems to ensure all students are on the track for academic and life success. Waiting for this to come up. Is it off? Oh, all right. There we go.
Our school's mission is to nurture self-respect, a love for learning, and empathy in all Walter Hayes students, while setting high standards for their academic, social, and emotional growth. Our mission aligns with the SWIFT plan and the district's focus on equitable access and inclusion, emphasizing academic and social emotional development in an inclusive environment where all students are able to thrive. The Walter Hayes Way, our school's core values, are deeply embedded in our school's culture, guiding our every actions and serving as our way of ensuring that equity is included in all of our daily practices. These values, as seen in our presentation, serve a dual purpose. First, they set clear expectations for the behavior of all community members, and second, the core values are a tool that allows all stakeholders to use an equity lens within our educational system. National trends indicate that not all students have the proper supports and systems in place to best access curricula. Historically, PAUSD has aligned with this trend. So the big question is, are the equity measures taking place at Walter Hayes having a positive impact on all students' ability to access high-level and rigorous instruction? Our literacy data from the 2022-2023 school year indicate that our intentional steps are indeed moving the needle to a more equitable school system. All students within the Every Student Reads initiative made significant literacy academic gains. Now, let's look at the intentional steps that got us here. Our academic progress deeply stems from our equity initiatives across 5 critical areas: curriculum and instruction, school climate, MTSS, professional learning, and family engagement. While the presentation is an abbreviated summary of our actions, we want to emphasize our commitment to using an equity-focused approach to our planning and teaching. Our staff engages in collaborative discussions to ensure students possess the necessary background knowledge to access instructional texts. Our classroom libraries are regularly inventoried to make sure all students have access to windows and mirrors. This is supported by our school librarian, Jen Ford's concerted efforts to continually update books available school-wide. Also, our staff is continually engaging in professional learning opportunities that push ourselves to intentionally reflect on our daily practices through an equity lens. Through self-reflection, we are able to make sure our intended actions have their intended impact.
Our commitment to equity and inclusivity at Walter Hayes is unwavering. Our core values, aligned with the SWIFT plan, guide our efforts to create a more equitable educational environment. We are changing systems, not fixing kids. We invite any questions of you, and if you're interested on our 2 trophies, you can ask us questions.
Thank you so much. Okay, colleagues, any comments or questions?
I wanted to thank you for this presentation. I had a wonderful time at Walter Hayes last spring celebrating the 100th anniversary. And I also want to thank you here. I want to make sure I get the number right. For your 16 years as principal of Walter Hayes and for your 25 years of service in our district. So I just wanted a moment here to celebrate that. And yes, clap. I will clap.
Thank you. It's a pleasure and honor.
So I actually do have a question about the trophies. Is one about 16 years of service and one about, so one question is, what are the trophies? I'm very interested.
Hi.
Hi.
So one of our trophies is for our participants last year as a multicultural liaison So us three were in it, as well as Mary. So we got a trophy for that. And then our second trophy here is the Step In, Step Up. That was for staff participation on a professional learning experience that happened 3
Over the
years
couple
ago.
of years ago, yes, before COVID.
Before COVID.
Social justice
Oh, wow. Thank you very much. One follow-up question is, you talked about looking into more ways to increase family engagement, and I'm always interested in how schools are doing that, as I think that's a very important piece. And I was wondering if you might be able to expand on different ways that you are doing that.
Sure. Okay. So one of the biggest things that we've been doing for a number of years are called community conversation evenings, where I will work with staff members who donate their time. In the evening, I provide dinner to full families coming to Walter Hayes, and we have selected a topic: reading, writing, math. We've opened up our maker space. We've had the Palo Alto Library come, and really helping parents come and share their experiences, their concerns, their needs, and then we share some best practices about how to support our children at home on a daily basis. And so reading has been a very big topic over the last couple of years, for sure. And so before COVID, we were having 5 meetings a year. Since COVID, we're just building up again, so.
Thank you so much.
I can share one thing too. I can share one thing that I do within my class. Last year was my first year at Walter Hayes, first year as a teacher. And last year I introduced what I call a mystery reader. So I would send out a schedule to parents and ask them to sign up to be a mystery reader, which means they come into the classroom and they read a story to the kids. And I call it a mystery so the kids don't know who it is, and someone shows up the day and they get really excited. This year, I want to make it more equitable, so I'm going to offer they could record a reading or they could Zoom in. And that's, yeah, it's been a very fun way to have some more parent engagement.
I just want to thank you all, and I love to see it. Thank you.
Is that America? Okay. Thank you all so much for being here, for taking your evening after a long day of work. Changing systems, not fixing kids, like that's it, right? This is the work. And it's hard to think of it that way sometimes, because it's not like, we're doing something wrong, we have to fix us. It's changing the whole system, right? It is PAUSD, it is schooling, it is all of it, right? So I really appreciate keeping the focus on that. And you sharing so many ways that you guys are doing that. So thank you. We are grateful. And yet again, another wonderful presentation. I knew that we wanted to do this to learn from you, but it's also a really nice celebration of all that is going on. So thank you.
Good, thank you.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, students, did you guys have anything?
Yeah, just curiosity. So I noticed on the slideshow you guys had really incredible growth. 144% on the ESRI initiative. So how does that work? How did it happen? What's the magic behind the scenes?
Where's Danae?
Where's Danae?
It is truly a team effort. The teachers have gone to so much professional development to look at best practices that have been offered by the district. We also have some teachers that go above and beyond, using their own money and time to go to other outside professional developments in reading. And so I think we see the need to provide great reading instruction and additional support every day of the week. So it is planning, organizing. We meet as teams regularly to look at student data and to push that needle. So we have a lot of incredible staff at Walter Hayes, incredibly dedicated to make reading a reality for all of our children.
Thank you so much for being here. All right. Okay, moving on to 4B.
All right, before I turn this over to Ms. Conway, a caution.
Okay.
We are presenting a sliver of MTSS tonight, and what we think is a pivotal moment. It's not a victory flag. It is not an exhaustive presentation about all things MTSS, so I just want to manage your expectations. That being said, however, we have some exciting news, and I think a chance here to celebrate some really good movement, and at a minimum, while some schools are in front of others, we're all up to a starting line now together with the tools that can help us to really get this work going in a different and meaningful way. So, Ms. Conway, all yours.
It's great to get another opportunity to introduce another element of our SWIFT plan. As you recall, one of the drivers was around providing student supports under a multi-tiered systems framework. Tonight, you've probably heard about MTSS, but you probably have not heard about the MTSS platform, which is what I call the icing on the cake. So I have Dr. Marcela Simoes Carvalho here, and she will be sharing some high-level information about the platform and how we're going to use it and how we plan to implement it in the future.
Thank you, board members, Dr. Austin and Ms. Conaway, for providing this opportunity for me to show and share how this new MTSS platform, Panorama Student Success, is going to bolster our district's priority goals as outlined in the promise. The Panorama platform will facilitate collaboration and data-driven decision-making, fostering a nurturing educational environment in alignment with the promise. We believe that Panorama will streamline the MTSS process, clarifying student needs and enabling timely interventions across all 3 tiers of support. Previously, addressing students' unique needs meant sifting through isolated data, making it challenging to grasp a holistic understanding of each student's needs. The platform, Panorama, conveniently displays data side by side, providing a comprehensive view so teams get a complete picture of their students' needs. This tool will help make every step of the MTSS process transparent to everyone. The data in Panorama, represented as a temperature gauge, serves as an early warning sign or system that proactively identifies students who may need support. These indicators allow teams to organize data to know what supports all students need, those that are in the green, what some students might need, those that are in the yellow, and a few students might need, those in the red. Here you can see the different data sources that feed into Panorama. What follows here is an example of how Panorama can support our MTSS teams at the school level in utilizing their student data effectively. So from the school overview page, MTSS teams can assess school-wide data in academics, attendance, behavior, and SEL, identifying potential gaps based on infinite campus student demographics. The behavior report illuminates trends and incidents by location, time, and day, aiding strategic adjustments in Tier 1 for overall student success. The attendance report reveals current trends and highlights students at risk of chronic absenteeism, enabling proactive measures to prevent disengagement. And then the tiered intervention summary ensures balanced support allocation and assesses intervention effectiveness, aiding informed decisions for impactful student progress. Next, we can look at the journey from this individual student level. Staff can access comprehensive student profiles, including demographics, current assessments, course grades, attendance, behavior incidents, and SEL survey data. Staff can also submit referrals to the site MTSS team to review if a student needs additional support, or create individual intervention plans using an ever-growing strategy library with over 700 research-based ideas for supports across the tiers. One such intervention could be this check-in and check-out, which includes automated progress graphs and allows for real-time progress monitoring during the intervention. And something pretty exciting, which makes this whole process really transparent, is at the point when teams are building intervention plans, these intervention plans can be shared with families, increasing that home-to-school connection and encouraging that partnership and supporting student growth. With that, thank you very much.
Thank you so much. We have 2 public comments. First, we have Stephen Davis and then Edith Cohen.
I was making comments based upon the provided slide package, which we didn't spend a lot of time on. One of the things that leapt out at me from the slide package was this looked like it explicitly excluded students who were not in general education, and I'm kind of curious what that actually means. This is cited multiple times in the charts and is a considerable concern as known problems in PAUSD for behavior that would be part of MTSS are closely entwined with our special education students. If we look at the three of the key metrics they cite, attendance, which Palo Alto reported a real crisis for disabled students last year, and it would be nice to know what has happened since then. But also that disabled students make up almost half of our suspensions, a clear issue that would need to be tracked under MTSS, but it looks like it isn't a factor here. Also, our CASP scores would indicate that our special ed students are already at risk under this model. And again, without much detail, and this is a very high-level presentation, I am concerned about the Tier 1 focus in the early rollout. In my previous school district up in San Mateo, they'd started implementing MTSS while we were there, and they started with Tier 1, and from the cheap seats, it looked like a bad one. It kind of looked like a gold stars for good kids system instead of real support to the students in most need. Get your strategy, data, and Tier 3 right first. This looked more like a software description than real student support.
I think it literally was a software description, which is what you told us it would be. But I hear your comments. Edith Cohen.
Hello. So first, I would like to thank you about acknowledging the events in Israel earlier today. It means a lot to us in the community that are closer to this event. So now it's about the MTSS. I'm just wondering, what is your plan about math in the early grades? I saw the word math, as in NWEA math, mentioned twice on all the documents on MTSS. We have data from NWEA map of many years. That data is pretty elaborate. It shows achievement levels, it shows growth, it shows where students are at on various topics, strengths and growth areas, but it hadn't been actionable until now. Students need targeted intervention and they had not received it. You delayed middle school math when many students are starting at middle school when they are like already years behind and they never recover, and you remove the grade level then, and basically you derail them for life doing that. So I want to know what's actionable, what are the plans? Like, you know, you have the same data, now you put it with a nice color diagram. But basically, this data had been there for years, and you need to say what you're doing about it, not just how you're showing it in another new shiny platform. And I haven't seen that in this document. Thank you. They need instead of the normal math class to have special targeted intervention to recover. Thank you.
Because it's his agenda, I would like to ask Ms. Conway if she can just add a little background to this just briefly. It's okay.
Yes, first
I don't want to put you on the spot, but I think you can handle it.
That's okay. I want to first really reiterate that we invested in the platform, and the goal was to share what this platform could potentially do for us. But given the comments, I thought it was really important to clarify a few things. First, the great news about an MTSS framework is it does not designate special ed and gen ed. It's for all students equally. So a student can be both a special ed and be on any one of those tiers, 1 through 3, at the same exact time. So I want to caution us from splitting, the whole goal and the notion of MTSS, which is to build out supports for all students across the continuum. Secondly, and unless we get tier 1, which is our core instruction straight first, tier 2 and tier 3 won't matter, other than we're funneling students to those tiers without providing good core instruction. So our focus is always on tier 1, and any district or individual going elsewhere with that without getting tier 1 strong is probably not on the right mark based on the research. And last, to the last comment, I want to make sure that the list of data points that we had on there, the data sources, that's just to say that's all of the data that our staff will be looking at to determine whether a child needs intervention or not. So it will be critical data that we can pull at any given time, 24/7, any moment of the day, to see a snapshot of where our students are performing. Right now, that's the list of data sources we have. That could grow in the future, but it is right now the data that we'll be using to drive our early warning system. Thanks.
Well, darn, you answered all my questions before we even asked them. Colleagues, questions, comments? Ms. Siegel.
I first want to thank you, Dr. Marcella, for taking time to give us this presentation, but also to meet with me one-on-one to help me fully understand Panorama. I was and continue to be very impressed, so thank you, team, as well, for ensuring we have this in place and for bringing us all, as you put it, to the starting line. I have 2 questions, and it might have been in there, but quickly, and so I just wanted to make sure I have it written in my notes. The first one is, what measures are used at the elementary level? I could see it for the high school level, but I couldn't at least find it for the elementary level in terms of academic flagging. What are we looking at? That's my first question.
At the elementary level?
Yes, just elementary.
The 2 measures are iReady and NWEA. So both of those measures feed into that academic temperature gauge.
Okay.
And depending if the student hit one of those, either one of the greens, yellow, or red, in any one of those, then they would come up, because that is just to point us to pay attention to that student early on, and then we can dig a little bit deeper with those data points and classroom observations and classroom data.
Thank you. And then my second and last question is, I heard in your presentation that the plan can be shared with families. Do parents have access to their own child's profile?
So the profile part of the student, of the tool, is not accessible to parents directly in the same way that it is for staff members. But at the point when a student has an intervention, then that intervention plan can be shared, and they get to see the student progress monitoring that's going on, which is kind of cool.
I have, I think, 2 quick questions, and I really think they're software related, but if they're not, you just put me off, okay? So the different colors right? I think I know the answer to this, but I want to confirm. There's 4 different areas that we're tracking. If any one of those is at risk, does the student then get an intervention plan? Like, or does
They
it have to
could.
be 2 of them or 3 of them,
No,
or is it
could
sort
be
of
in
subjective?
any one. So what's really great is it's one of the first times that we can see all 4 buckets at the same time, at the same glance. And so teams can decide based on what the student needs. So if there's both an SEL and an academic need, teams can come together and problem solve in both those areas at the same time. Perhaps write different intervention plans, one around academics, one around SEL, but the support happens in a real timely manner because the information is put together all at one glance. Yeah.
I can't figure this out. I think that's probably my only question. Well, they're sort of connected to the intervention plan idea. So I think what I'm hearing is you'll get a flag that one of these areas is at risk, and then sort of staff will talk and be like, okay, do we need an intervention plan here?
Yeah.
Do we not?
It's a formal meeting, yeah.
Okay, thanks.
I do want to add one thing. Just because a child gets a flag does not necessarily mean it's a child who needs a plan. It is important for the team to meet to make that determination first. Yeah.
But that also means no child slips through the cracks. You get flags.
Exactly.
For any of it, so you can have a discussion about it.
It's that early warning sign. And so you may not get the intervention plan, but you're on everyone's radar and people are talking. So I think that's that collaborative piece and a lot of minds together problem solving and supporting kids.
Good. You have something else?
No, that was my question. So even one yellow zone is going to be a flag and people are going to start
be a
talking about it.
conversation.
Doesn't mean you'll be an intervention, but even one means there'll be a conversation. Okay, great, thanks.
Student board reps, any questions or comments?
Yeah, just a quick clarification. So this was just a presentation on the software itself. So can we expect to see something on the actual intervention system and what actually happens after they get flagged in the future, next couple meetings?
I don't remember the date, but it's already on our calendar and already published, that we'll come back and actually have real data.
And feel free to stop me if I'm also getting too in the weeds. But on the slideshow for SEL, just to clarify, are panorama surveys the only or the main way that we're gauging SEL progress for students?
Yes.
Okay. I guess I'm just asking this question because I've seen a lot of my peers take this survey, and it usually happens at the start of study hall, and people want to maximize how much homework that they can get finished. Obviously, you can't get a perfect system, and you can only do as much as, I guess students are willing to share. But I think it would be interesting to at least see if there are other avenues we could take to see how we could solicit maybe more meaningful responses or meaningful ways of asking these questions to see the different types of responses we can get.
Or maybe doing it during a different class when there's not a benefit to rushing through. Good tip. My questions have been answered. I'm really grateful to you all. And one of the best things about moving the reports to the beginning is we get to start out our meeting feeling really good. And from the time I joined the board, there's been talk we really should have an MTSS. We really should have a system. And of course, there's tons of interventions that we do, but we don't have it in this MTSS format. And I don't think I've thought of it in a systemic way. And we have talked about this for years, right? How's this gonna be funded? How are we gonna do this one? And so just seeing this, as much as this is just the platform, and no, we all wanna see the data, it is clearly moving forward, and I'm so happy that it's gonna be another tool that we use to really make sure that we give every child what they need to succeed. So thank you. I think that's it for yeah, sure.
I just wanted to add on to what Chris was saying about the survey system. I think a pretty frequent problem that occurs with these new plans, we get kind of from the student's perspective, we get kind of a new system, a new check, something that happens pretty much one new thing a month. So I think it's really important to note that in order for any kind of system like this, it's really important to get like that kind of student buy-in, because I know like among my friends, among my peers, there's plenty of people who are just going to see it's another survey that we're required to take before we can do the actual homework that we need to do, and just kind of go click, 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 click. So I think it's really important to get kind of the student buy-in and really clarify to like the community like what actually happens behind the scenes and why it matters. Because like for a lot of students, I know like when I first like got this position, like it's true for me too, a lot of this stuff that happens with like iReady, with CASP testing, probably now this, it's like really just like a black box to students, because you can't really see what actually happens with a wellness survey you take, what actually happens with all these surveys that we have to take. So I think it's really important to make it clear, not just from like a data perspective, but just from a, like what's actually going on when students do it, and kind of get that buy-in.
Yeah, that we've been doing it for a while and it does stand on its own, but now it's also going to be part of the system as well. Yeah, that's a good point. Thank you. Okay, now we are going to go into the consent calendar, and I'm going to do something a little different this time. We are going to vote on our consent calendar, but we have several comments about several different items. Instead of pulling each item, let's take all the comments first, and then if any board member wants to pull an item to talk about it further, we will. But we'll get our comments in before we vote. Okay, so first comment is a student, Aditya Swaminathan. Did I say it right? If I didn't, correct me. When you get up here, you'll have to say it into the microphone to make sure I got it right. And this is for 5A, approval of the minutes.
So I was actually going to try to talk on the open speech, but I was having some issues with is it okay if I talk about what I was going to talk about right now? It'll only take like a minute of your time.
You know, you are a student. Right now, I'm going to let you go, and in the future, make sure you sign out open forum, so I don't have to, okay?
We'll
But go for it.
Hi, so I'm here to talk.
So we can hear you.
I'm here to talk about the self-class at. Hello?
Hello.
Okay. I'm here to talk about the self-class at Gunn High School. So I'm not really here to talk about the curriculum, but one big thing that I think needs to be changed is the way the message is coming to the students. So for example, in my self-class, I think it's really silly that, so we have this idea of buddy classes, right? And so in my self-class, some seniors come and they do this stuff with us. But the only thing they're actually doing with us is the fun activities, like the playing games and like Ring Around the Rosie or whatever. And I know this is an emotional class, but I feel like the actual lessons need to happen with the buddy class there so we can connect with them. And also I think a really silly thing is that it's really hard to change your self-teacher. And I think that's really silly because we're trying to like force connections with the students to the teachers. And what if you're stuck with a teacher that you don't like for 4 years, right? And that can be really hard, especially in like an emotional class. How are you supposed to open up when your teacher is someone that maybe gave you a bad grade in your math class, or like maybe like you just have trouble connecting with them? And so I think that something that should be changed going forward is how the buddies interact with the students. And when they do, I think the buddies should be there more for the actual learning, because they're the people we can connect with, not the teachers sometimes. And I think maybe the accessibility to the teachers who are teaching us should also be switched. Like I know that like unless you're in freshman year, it's almost impossible to change your self-class. And if you're stuck with this teacher, it can be really hard, like especially if they're like a blank slate. Oh,
I'm sorry to cut you off. Thank you. You
Thank you so much.
minutes. If you have more thoughts, please send them to the board and send them to administration too, so they know, because that's really where that would get changed. Thank you. Okay, now on to consent calendar items. I see a pattern here. Stephen Davis, why don't you come up to the microphone? You want to comment on certificated personnel, classified personnel, a board policy, and approval of September purchase orders. So we'll start you at 2 minutes and see where that goes.
I'll just go as fast as I can,
Okay.
all right? First, on the certificated staff, the question is, when is the district going to start providing the board and the public with reporting on vacancies and churn information, both by school and programs, including special education? These are important leading and trailing indicators of the health of the various parts of the district. That was pretty quick.
That was quick.
Two.
We're not even going to reset right now. You go.
Redlining on 5C. On our special ed aid strategy, we had 4 special ed resignations in the reported today out of a total of 10. It is time to take a hard look at the Palo Alto's special education staffing and staffing strategy. As of this morning, there are 25 instructional mod severe substitute vacancies, 12 behavioral support instructional assistant vacancies, 5 therapeutic instructional assistant vacancies, 4 mod severe instructional assistant vacancies, 5 mild mod instructional aid vacancies, and 4 one-to-one mild mod instructional aid vacancies. Aides are staffed right to a red line. They work bell to bell, which means they have no time to collaborate with the special education or general education teachers or attend IEPs. There is no built-in available staffing for lunch breaks. There is no regular training time in their schedules, so once again, teachers and classes are understaffed when training is given. And as is seen by the huge number of vacancies for substitute aides, there is no capacity in the system in the face of ordinary absences. It is a stretched out, stressed out system. No wonder there is so much turnover for both aides and teachers. Okay.
Thank you. Let me give another 2 minutes for the next 2.
Flying along. Mental health, this is on the mental health policy. Again, a quick one. It is troubling that in the policy there is nothing about regular data collection and reporting in this policy so that Palo Alto staff and board will have insight into hotspots, trends, and demographics and performance of the mental health program. I ask the board or Palo Alto staff update this policy to address this. And finally, purchases. With plenty of time to spare. Just a quick report on some of the funds we're spending on special ed legal stuff. It looks like $50,000 to the Harbottle Legal Group, which looks like a special ed law firm. Another law firm for $12,500 and over $212,000 in special ed legal settlements. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, board members, the consent calendar. Does anybody have any comments or anything they want to pull, or are we ready to vote on consent? Someone make a motion.
I move that we approve the consent calendar as presented.
A second.
Okay, any comments? Student board reps. Colleagues, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Now I got to go back to my paper agenda because I have too many pages here. On to action items. Okay, 6A, Dr. Austin.
One standalone action item. I'd like to bring up Mr. Holm.
Good evening, board. Tonight we just have one item, which is the authorization. Oops, sorry, I got my shirt stuck me to the lectern. There we go. Way to get sidetracked. We have authorization for a contract with TeleQ Construction Management for construction management services at JLS Middle School, Administration Library Modernization Expansion Project. TeleQ is one of the CMs that we added in our CM pool last spring, and so we're excited to begin working with them and start to develop a relationship with them. The contract will be for $1.28 million, and we've added a contingency for related projects because with all of our construction projects, other things pop up that we're not aware of when we start out. So we typically on the Hodges contracts don't do that because they do all the contingency stuff under the general program management. Since this is a project specific, we've added it in this way. So the total amount would be $1.4 million.
Okay. There are no comments on this that I see. Board colleagues? Questions, comments? Students? Just a quick question. Where is this company based?
Their headquarters is in Southern California. I can't remember what city. They have a satellite in Ravenswood District, so East Menlo Park.
And they've done work locally?
They've been working with the Ravenswood District for 3 or 4 years, I believe. So yeah, that's where their satellite's based out of. They've done a lot of work with, they do Ravenswood's entire program.
Yeah, okay. Okay, all the, student preferential board vote. Oh, we need a motion before they give a preferential board vote.
I move to authorize a contract with Tulacue Construction Management.
Preferential board vote, great. In sync, too. Okay, colleagues, any questions or comments? Nothing. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, discussion item 7A, ESRI.
Well, from now on, if we have a tricky item, I'm just going to ask Eric to walk up and get his shirt caught. It's a great distraction technique. I'm going to turn this over to Ms. Brown.
Thank you, Dr. Austin. Good evening, board and trustees. Tonight we have prepared the iReady beginning of the year assessment results and a proposed goal for progress indicator number 3 of the Every Student Reads initiative. We request that you review and approve this goal. As a reminder, we will return twice again this year, in the middle of the year and the end of the year, to show you the progress the students are making on the iReady assessment in reading. And I would like to now turn this over to Ms. Reynolds.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. Good evening, Dr. Austin. Good evening, board members. This fall, K through 5 students were administered the iReady Diagnostic Reading Assessment based on the end-of-year California Common Core standards for their grade level. This slide provides the results for the ESRI groups. The number of students mid or above grade level is in blue. Early on grade level is in green. Both colors represent students on or above the end-of-year standards. Yellow represents the number of students 1 year below grade level and where we expect students to demonstrate their reading skills at the start of the school year, as we have not yet begun to teach at grade level. And orange shows students reading 2 grade levels below, and red displays children reading 3 or more grade levels below the end-of-year standards. Here are the results for all kindergarten through 5th grade students by race or ethnicity. The following slides show the fall or beginning of year results for each group, grades K through 5, with the number of students in each proficiency band. Principals have already begun meeting with teachers and specialists to discuss individual students, to focus on the skills students need to grow in reading. The spring iReady results project the spring SBAC CASP results. Teachers can use this diagnostic information to inform their instruction and increase reading proficiency. The following slides of each student group showing the fall results will be updated and shared with the board after administering each reading diagnostic, displaying winter or middle of the year assessment results, spring or end of the year assessment results. So here we have our African American or Black students, the fall results, and you can see where we'll show mid-year and end of year when we return. Pacific Islander results, Hispanic or Latino students, socioeconomically disadvantaged students, Hispanic and socioeconomically disadvantaged students, students with disabilities, English learners, all Every Student Reads initiative groups K through 5, the SWIFT focus group K through 5 with the exception of students with disabilities and English learners, all students in PAUSD grades K through 5, and each of our students by grade level, K through 5, so all students by grade level. After year 1 of iReady implementation, Educational Services recommends adjusting the 2023-24 Progress Indicator 3 goal to 3%. This table provides last year's ESRI growth and this year's fall results for the board's consideration and discussion. As a reminder, the student group composition varies from year to year. Thank you, and we are ready to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you very much, Ms. Reynolds and Ms. Brown. Okay, do we have, right, I'm not on the right page. Let me see if we have comments for this one. We do. Over Zoom, we have Emily Lee, and then in person, we have Stephen Davis. You have 2 minutes.
Hi, I'm a PAUSD parent. I wanted to flag a few concerns with the literacy gains data presented. First, I'm having some trouble seeing the literacy gains for students with disabilities. If you look at the board goal for spring 24 chart, it shows students with disabilities are at 31% for fall 23 compared to 34% for fall 22. If gains are truly being achieved through the initiative, you would expect an improvement between fall 2022 and fall 2023, but you aren't seeing an improvement here. You're actually seeing a 3% decrease. Second, I realized the district reported a 19% gain for students with disabilities in June of 2023, but I'm still confused by this since the district calculated the gain by comparing the results at the end of the year, 53 versus results at the beginning of the year, which was 34. But students are naturally expected to have gains during the school year. A first grader who tests at the end of the year is expected to have a better score than at the beginning of the year. So why did the district measure end of year versus beginning of year? Can you present the score ranges that were used to measure the results at both beginning of year and end of year so that we can understand whether the district's reported results demonstrate gains due to the district's initiative versus other factors like natural growth in reading during the year? I think improving literacy is really a laudable goal. I just want to stress the importance of working with the right data. Thank you.
Thank you. Stephen Davis.
As someone who's come to these meetings for a while on these numbers, they continue to be really impressive, and it's great to see them across the board. It is, I will say, it's conspicuous that the improvement as a cohort for the students with disabilities of 19% is impressive, except for when we look at it as a gap relative to our other cohorts, all of which were basically at 30% or more. It's the first year. I'm not like going tisk, 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 but I think it's like a lot of things in the district where our gaps are growing between our special ed kids and our general ed kids. I have a very technical request on the slides, starting on, I think, the 23, 24 slides. It would be good to show a vertical line for the district target percentage, you know, that what you're trying to get for the year, and the total numbers, and also at the end, perhaps, the total number of students in each cohort, just for those of us who like math. I will say, you may want to recalibrate upwards, again, because it's good news. It looks like, if I'm reading the charts right, which is my problem, that many groups are close to or making the proposed goal targets as their baseline for the beginning of the year. Though I may be wrong on that, but it looks actually like the numbers are, you know, again, you are a victim of your success, but the 3% numbers kind of look a little unimpressive given how much progress that has been made. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Questions, comments for Ms. Reynolds, Ms. Brown, anyone? Anything? Mr. Dart, do you have any?
I just wanted to take a moment to measure backwards, because when I first looked at the staff report, I just started laughing because I saw that our spring goal was, for instance, just for the first group, African American or Black students, our spring goal was for 2024 is 83%, which I love that. But if you look at what our goal was for 22, 23, it was 55%. So here we are a year later, and you're proposing with a straight face to us a goal that's almost 30% higher than what it was a year ago. So I think it's important also to reiterate that, you know, for decades, we saw no movement at all in these numbers. It wasn't like there'd be peaks and then valleys and peaks. It was just no movement ever. So this isn't just a statistical anomaly now at this point. This is something that's never happened before. And it's crazy that we're going to sit up here and say, yes, great, go get to 83%. Like Mr. Davis said, we were a victim of our own success here. So go forth, do it again. Congratulations.
Okay. Mr. Collins.
I just have a brief comment. Thanks for this, really informative as always. because it has the baseline for 2022 and 2023, the fall BOI numbers, it gives some comparison. You can compare where we are. And it expects that those numbers should rise, right? Because we're applying the ESRI treatment to the whole group. And in most of the groups it did, and some of the groups it didn't. And the thing that's surprising or attention getting is that for some it didn't, in particular African American, Pacific Islander, and students with disabilities. The first two are pretty small groups. They're the smallest groups on the page. So you might expect some variability, but the drop was pretty meaningful. And so that was interesting to me. I'm sure there's no explanation for that. It's something for us to pay attention to going forward, because, we should expect to see rising BOI numbers as the program instantiates itself. Though you have to keep in mind, unlike our other measures, we usually look at third grade numbers. These are K through 5 numbers. So it's a much bigger group, and a lot of the ESRI emphasis is on K through 3. And so it might have less impact on the older kids, which might dilute the effect on this. But anyway, I just thought it was worth pointing out that there was, and the other groups, English learners up by 8 points, Latino up by 6 points, SED Latino up by 5 points. So there's definitely groups that went up, comparing beginning of year with beginning of year. But I just thought it was noteworthy that there were a couple groups that went down, and I think we should all just double down our efforts and really focus on that, because it isn't the start we were hoping. We kind of slipped out of the gates, but we still have the very high goals, and I'm confident we'll achieve them. Thank you.
Student board reps, any comments, questions? Okay, thank you all for this. The first thing I thought of was last year was the year that we laser focused, had lots of PD, did lots of training, site by site, was really looking kid by kid by kid. We're still doing that, but that was the room for really making a lot of progress. And we did, because we are laser focused on this and we're doing this work. It's going to be harder to make as much gain this year as you did last year, right? You sort of got the low-hanging fruit. Let's tighten ourselves up and let's, refine our practices. I have no doubt you guys are going to get there, but I know you and every teacher in this district is going to continue to work really hard to get there. So I look forward to seeing the updates as the year goes on, and can't wait to be celebrating again at the end of the year. Thank you. Okay. Okay. No, I think we're close to done. Thank you. 7B, Palo Alto Middle College Program.
Yeah, and before I turn this over to Dr. Che, I do want to just acknowledge a couple things. Earlier this week, which means like Monday, maybe it was yesterday, I did meet with the new president of Foothill College, and we discussed tonight's item. And then I've also discussed with Dr. Meyer from MVLA. And because the proposed split could have an impact on their program, I just want to share that MVLA believes that the impact could be that they grow their program. So this is not going to in any way harm MVLA. In fact, it could open up additional spots for them. We had a great conversation about it. So just heading in, speaking to everyone involved, it looks like the path is clear for us to make a decision that does not negatively impact either of those two groups. So Dr. Che, it's all you.
Thank you, Dr. Austin. Tonight, we're seeking the board guidance on our implementation plan of Middle College and College Now programs. Can you turn the next slide? The battery died. Middle College and College Now programs are both offered on Foothill campus to our juniors and senior students currently. And the students are participating in the programs are getting a contracted service through MVLA, Mountain View Los Altos Union High School District. Starting next year, PAUSD is ready to offer both of these programs in-house rather than contracting them out. This will help support our students in a more holistic way. In order to facilitate a smooth transition, we would like to take a phased approach where current juniors in the program will finish their senior year with the MVLA next year. Then we will start the next school year with just a junior cohort and expand to include senior year the following school year. Next slide. To describe what these programs are designed to do, Middle College program provides an alternative education to meet the unique needs of students seeking a more specialized education where they take a couple of high school courses together as a cohort, in this case, English and social science, and they take the rest of their coursework at Foothill. This program has particularly been beneficial to students who thrive in a small group setting with specialized interests. College Now program is designed for self-motivated, independent students who may have outgrown the high school setting and seeking a different educational environment. Often these students have completed their graduation requirement and they take all of their coursework through Foothill. Next slide. The following timeline summarizes our transition plan, especially after establishing a robust partnership with Foothill through dual enrollment. We're very excited about supporting our students more directly and holistically through this opportunity. Thank you.
Great, I was just reading it, thanks. Okay, we do have a comment. Linda Hennigan is on Zoom. Ms. Hennigan, are you there?
I am.
Oh, good.
Good evening, board members. I am speaking in support of this proposal to design and implement a middle college program run entirely by PAUSD. I have a family member who attends the current middle college program, which is run by Mountain View Los Altos, and I understand that we pay MVLA for our students' seats in their program. We love the teachers, we love the way they run the classroom, we love the classroom community they've built and the support that they give to the students as they learn to navigate their Foothill College classes. What we don't love is the way the program is disconnected from PAUSD. Our child's counselors don't know much about the middle college calendar. They kept asking us when our child was starting school. They didn't know the middle college schedule or the curriculum over there. And they aren't able to offer effective counseling for our child or the other children in the program. So building a middle college program inside of PAUSD with our skilled and caring teachers would help the PAUSD students in the program to access all that PAUSD offers to the rest of our students, all of the counseling supports and all of the self and advisory and all the other things we are not currently getting in middle college. I hope you approve the proposal to take the next step in designing this program. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, colleagues, questions, comments? Ms. Siegel.
I'm very supportive of this proposal, and I want to thank you for your hard work. This has clearly been a collaborative effort, so thank you, Dr. Che, and thank you, Dr. Austin, for bringing everyone together to help make this happen. And so I just wanted to share I'm fully supportive and hope we move forward.
Yeah, this is a really great step to integrating our goal of diverse pathways, integrating that more and more into our, day-to-day in the district. So I encourage you and encourage staff, and I know we've been having these conversations for a while, but to think about other ways in which we can continue to expand our diverse pathways and build out that model for all of our students.
I had a similar question that's related to those comments. I think as board members, we've had the privilege of being able to talk to you individually about these plans, but I would love if you could explain sort of quickly to all of us sort of the why behind doing this. I know it's not just to save money. I think the caller probably spoke to some of the opportunities that you have identified, but if you could speak quickly to the why we're making this change.
Yeah, actually, we had a robust staff input, and we actually have 8 bullet points that they came up with, and I'm happy to send that to you. Some of the highlight from that is our course is not articulated with MVLA, so when students try to apply to UCCSU, they're running into problems. It's not part of what they can select. Traditionally, the students who enter this program would finish at Foothill, but now it's not the case because a lot of the diverse students are seeking these programs and they're actually applying to four-year college. So that's just a glimpse of it, but I can send you the details from the staff.
Mr. Collins? Student board reps.
Yeah, I mean, one thing, in the interest of like ensuring these diverse pathways for students, are there any plans to like actually increase like awareness of these programs? Because I know like I didn't hear about middle college being a thing until I saw it on the agenda as I was preparing for this meeting. Like if I went around and asked like my friends, my peers at Pally, my guess would be maybe 1% would be able to tell me what middle college is. So I think the important step in ensuring access to diverse pathways isn't just like making them accessible, making them exist. It's also about giving students like direct access insofar as making sure everyone knows about them, knows the pathway to getting them, and like it's an easy transition to make as opposed to like the kind of niche programs that are pretty common.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why we want to house this in-house, because there's a little bit of disconnect in communicating between this different district to bring this and for our counselors to reach out to our families.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I think that in the past, it has often been a program that is directly introduced to students because they're not feeling like the Pally or Gun is their place. Either it's not the classes they want or it's not the social scene they want something different, so it's proposed to them. But I think it's a very good point that if we bring it in-house, it's another opportunity to just make sure everyone knows that this is an option if this is something, even if you're doing fine here, there might be another path you're interested in. It looked like you leaned in on your mic.
Yeah, can I, whenever you're done,
Yeah,
just
sure,
want
go
to
ahead.
add something. Sort of along those lines, I guess middle college has been around for a long time. And I remember several years ago, I'm sure President DeBrienne remembers too, it was, one of the things we discovered, it's been a well-liked program. The kids who were in it like it, but very few people knew about it. And one of the things that was clear is that there was more demand than there was supply. And I remember we invested in increasing supply.
We doubled it.
And then in MVLA, we had trouble with MVLA. They didn't really want to do it. There were all kinds of issues there. But I think, to me, this illustrates a little bit the footing that we're on now after recovering from the pandemic and kind of really working on kind of improving ourselves over the last several years. It's like something like this has bumped along for a long time, 20 years, more than 20 years, kind of the way it is. And it was fine. Why mess with it? It was a program, people seemed to like it, it was fine. But it was clearly a missed opportunity. But we didn't have the capacity to take on missed opportunities and do something about them. And so the idea that we're actually taking this on, I had nothing about this. I was surprised to see it on here. I had no idea what you were talking about when I saw it on the agenda. But the idea that we're taking on things like this that I think are actual real material improvements and saying, hey, we have the capacity to actually do this and do it better and expand it and make it a bigger opportunity for our students, I think that says something about where we are now. So I'm
You might say
happy to
we're
see
like
it.
agile and innovative. But you might say that.
Something I would not say, but.
And I also want to commend you. Very rarely do we talk about a pretty significant change, and MVLA is good with it, and PAUSD is good with it, and Foothill's good with it. And granted, it's one parent, but a parent called in to say, I'm good with it. It seems like process well done there, that it really was well thought out, got buy-in, and I think it's going to go pretty well. So very excited to see it, and agree with Mr. Drop that we have long talked about really expanding the range of options for our students to try to make sure that every student finds some place that they can be successful and feel included and learn in. And so more of this adds to that possibility. So thank you. I think we're on to our last discussion item, which is our budget development. Very exciting topic.
Well, we're done saving money, so we're going to transition into budget development. And just to frame this up before I turn it over to Ms. Chow, it looks different than we've done this in the past. And again, to Mr. Collins' point, we're in a different place. So we can start thinking about these things differently. And we're going to present tonight a couple things. First of all, the ads that came in after the budget development process last year. And then in the meat of your board item, you'll also see bullet points for some things. I would not quite call them proposals yet, but there are things that have made it this far in the process. Until they become budget assumptions, they're still ideas. And at the next board meeting, those ideas will have dollars attached to them. Okay, but we're excited about being this far ahead of the game. Most school districts, I can tell you, are not talking about their 24, 25 budgets right now and doing the planning work this far ahead. So I'm excited about the position that we are in. So Ms. Chow, you have it.
Thank you, Dr. Austin. So if it feels like you are seeing this budget development item earlier in the year than you normally would, you're correct. The district has shifted its budget development process from where we typically have it early in January, right as we return from our winter break, to early fall. And our focus is on identifying and addressing the needs of students and staff and aligning a budget that meets those needs. Addressing programmatic or staffing changes in the spring limits our opportunities to thoughtfully implement new programs, to change or move staff, and hiring the best new staff becomes a challenge the later we move into spring. Can I have the first slide, please? So as you can see in this slide, numerous recent improvements have been supported through our budget development process to the benefit of staff or to build more robust student programs. And quite frankly, we've been fortunate to be in a position where our budget supports our systemic needs. I'm not going to outline each of these, but I wanted to have this up here so that you could see really the notable improvements our budget has helped us make in the recent past. On the next slide, here we see the post-adoption budget ads for the current 23-24 year. We have made additions across all employee groups, totaling $2.7 million. These are the items that have been reviewed with the board and will formally be added to the budget at first interim this December. As we look at items for the 24-25 budget, these items are being brought forward from staff. They're being reviewed by various leadership groups and then will be shared with the board. Once approved by the board, they'll be added to the budget assumptions document. The following represent staff proposals or considerations for development in our 24-25 budget. These items are in the agenda item if you wish to follow along. When looking at the elementary schools, there was staff recommendation to increase all librarians to full-time. We currently have some that are less than full-time. This would add 1.6 FTE to the librarian positions. Productive play across the elementary schools. The proposal was to add a second position, so this would be an add of 1 FTE to our current position. The psychologists are similar to the librarians. When we looked at those, there are some that are less than a full FTE. And this proposal would bring all of the 21 psychologists up to a full FTE. As we just heard from Dr. Che, moving College Now and middle college programs from the history of having those programs with the MVLA to be completely in-house with PAUSD. This is something that would be cost neutral, and we see it as potentially being a cost savings when we look at it purely from a budget perspective. Adding assistant athletic trainers at each of the high school would be an add of 2 FTE. We currently don't have that position. Reinstating targeted instructional leads across the secondary sites would be an add of 2 FTE. And then extending the current pilot of the release time for our elementary special ed teachers was something that was brought forward as well. Barron Park, there was a recommendation to reinstate to a full two-strand school. And then the tech department is looking at realigning some positions to best meet current needs that they're experiencing in the department. So those are some of the considerations that staff have brought forward for 24-25. And as we look at the next slide, what we're able to see here is an overview of our budget since it was adopted in June. So as you may recall, when we adopted the budget in June, and looking at the revenue side of our budget, we brought that forward with the information we had at the time, which was growth in our assessed valuation of our property tax revenue of 4%. Since June, we have met with the assessor and controller's office, and that we have new information. We've had a growth in our assessed valuation. It is currently at 5.83%. So that growth of just under 2% has netted us an increase in revenue of about $5 million. When we look at that new revenue, it's important to remember that we also adopted the budget with a deficit of $2.3 million. And then also that nets us down to a gain of $2.7 million, which coincidentally is the number that we just saw on the previous slide of the post-adoption budget adds. So what that does right now in terms of our budget means that we have a balanced budget. We have some new revenue, but again, we had a deficit and we added some things. So that brings our budget to being very neutral or in balance. So as we move forward, what I would just like to say is that there are some things that are not included in our budget. So for 24-25, and that is we typically do not add salary increases because those are negotiated, and we add those when we have salary settlements and agreements from our employee groups. But as a reference, what the cost of a 1% salary would be is $2.2 million, and that is for all groups. The items that I mentioned, those are not included in the budget. Those are things, as Dr. Austin mentioned, that have been brought forward from staff or various departments, and we are discussing those. And then any additional staffing due to enrollment changes are also not included in here. So I just want to let the board know that we are balanced right now, and any adds to the budget would involve a reduction of expenditures or looking forward as we may have growth in revenue areas. And that concludes the budget item. Are there any questions on this item?
Oh, I'm sure there are. I don't think, nope, we don't have any comments from the community. So let's go to our colleagues.
Thank you so much for the presentation. It was very helpful to see. From my time subbing in the district, and I've seen a need for math support for struggling students at the elementary school level. And so I was wondering if we could consider adding math specialists. Now, this is for students who are struggling. These are for students who are below grade level in math in our elementary schools. I did not realize when I was subbing that although we offer reading specialists at our elementary schools, which is great, at this time, we are not offering math specialists at our elementary schools to help our students who are struggling and are below grade level. So I'd be interested in looking into this. Also just thinking about how it could be utilized, like we could consider an intervention period, 30 minutes a day or 3 days a week, similar to the model currently being used at Escondido. This could support both the push and pull out model, the push in and pull out model, utilizing these math specialists. And this could help ensure that no new teaching is taking place during the time that the math specialists are working with the students. Just something I wanted to consider exploring.
Thanks. Mr. What's your name, Dara?
Ms. Chow, I was just wondering if you could give just a really high-level overview briefly about the process in terms of where we go from here, just so that folks know who are listening, because we do this every year, but I think it's helpful to get a refresher, because I think it's easy to look at this and think this is, and you talked about it a little bit, but in the sense of where are we now? What is the board's role in terms of providing input, and then staff's role in terms of providing recommendations, just at high level?
Certainly. So where we are right now, this is sort of the first opportunity that the board is looking at these items that are under consideration for 24-25. We will, in terms of the 23-24 budget, those items you will see at first interim in December when we do first interim for that budget. We will also continue budget development on the 24-25 budget, which means that we will continue gathering input from staff, from various district leaders, our principals, and so forth. And we had a meeting on September 26th, which was quite fruitful in terms of looking at our instructional leads, special ed, our SAFE specialists, and those were some of the key topics of that meeting. So several important suggestions, very valuable, came out of that meeting. Now, that's not to say that something that's brought forward in consideration is automatically going to go in, because for one, as I mentioned, we have a balanced budget at this point, so we do need to have capacity, financial capacity, before we add, whether it's a reduction of expenditures or whether we are fortunate to have new sources of revenue. But those items are also going to be, vetted by the folks that have the most experience in those areas to say, is this a duplicative of something that's currently in practice? Is this something that's needed, or is this something that's maybe just best targeted for a school that has a population where this would be needed versus being implemented across the board? So I think it's really important that we are getting input from all of our stakeholders, but then we will also go through a vetting process to see how this can be best utilized, and then we will prioritize it against dollars that we're anticipating receiving. So in terms of when you can expect to see the budget assumptions document, our traditional document, excuse me, when we have the best information to build out that document is right after the governor's proposed budget, which comes out around January 10th. At that time, that's where we get all the information related to what the state COLA is, what various rates are in terms of mandate block grants. Our insurance rates come out about that time, shortly after, actually. So we start putting that document together, and as items have been vetted and tested and then been, brought forward to the board again and receive board, a nod to go forward with, there's clearly board support around them, then we will include them in the budget assumptions document. So we'll be looking at the budget assumptions document as our document that will be informing us as to what goes into the budget.
Thank you. Yeah, I always find the budget assumption document to be the point at which I feel more engaged on a granular level, because as much as it's tempting to use this opportunity as a wish list, it's always more helpful to me to first see where we are at budget assumption and then go from there. Other people may have different opinions, but I think it's always useful every now and then to review the process for new folks who are out there listening and, know this is not the end, this is really just the beginning. Yeah.
Only the beginning. Ms. Latimer?
No, I just want to say thank you, and thank you for making the change and doing this way, both the timing of it and then the soliciting input of staff ahead of time. I think really getting clear sort of what kind of expenses we are anticipating, new expenses we're anticipating being proposed up front. So when we're actually adopting a budget and coming to agreements with our associations, we actually know how much money we have. I think we know how much money we're talking about spending. It's sort of, like our middle schoolers are learning in money matters, right? Like you can't spend more money than you have. And we've sort of done this backwards, and I think Mr. Collins might have mentioned this earlier, it's sort of indicative of our privilege as a district that we can kind of figure it out and assume the money's going to be there, but that's really not a responsible way of doing things. So I appreciate that we're making this change. And I look forward to seeing the hard choices that you guys are going to have to make.
Nothing? Okay. Students? No? Okay. Oh, I didn't think we'd get to me so fast. A lot of my comments and questions have already been dealt with. I think everything that you list seems very worthy of doing. And I love that so much of it came from staff, right? You went out and you solicited, hey, you guys are in the classrooms, you guys are at the sites, you guys are doing the work, what is it that you want? And yeah, it's hard not to keep from it being a wish list. I would imagine that they also want a raise of some sort. And assuming that's going to happen, obviously we can't do all this. We can't do all of it anyway. So I look forward to seeing what you all settle on as your assumptions, I guess, what you're going to come forward with. I'm not worried about any of it. Like, there's nothing there that I'm like, oh, I don't want that to be it. It sounds like they really all came from staff, which is fantastic. I, too, really appreciate the way you are doing this. I hope that for any of our staff that has ever felt like, oh, I feel disconnected from Central, or I don't feel like they listened to us, or I wanted this, but no one ever even knew I wanted it. I don't think that can be said, right? When it comes to budget stuff, I think that you've really done a lot of work to gather those data. So we look forward to the next step when you guys do the hard work of really prioritizing that, because we can't do it all. And I don't have any questions. Is that it? Great. Thank you. Thank you to all of you. So we're on to info items. We don't have any public comment. Does anybody have a comment here? Anything? Okay, I think that just means board operations. Oh, yours is always long. Go ahead.
Long, but it was too many weeks.
There's a lot going
I
on.
will speak quickly, but
great.
there are so many wonderful things happening, and I have to celebrate the wonderful things happening.
They're loud, too. It's like,
And now they're like, finally, we can turn on her mic. She's been quiet. I, as well as board member Letta Myrick, whom I'm sure will want to expand on our experience, attended a staff field trip to San Francisco using one of our amazing district school buses with the Equity and Alliance team to hear Dr. Bettina Love and Kamau Bell discuss racial equity. So at this time, I want to sincerely thank Lana Conaway for organizing and leading this event, as well as continuing the ongoing work. And I look forward to attending and participating in next week's Equity and Alliance session at Gunn High School. So thank you for the invitation to that as well. I also attended Palo Alto CAC's annual Family Fun Day Carnival, where I also saw other board members. I just want to give a special thank you and shout out to the Palo Alto CAC and new Palo Alto CAC President Rika Yamamoto for organizing and planning, to Pali teacher Hillary McDaniel and her students in the Child Development Pathway who came and attended, as well as all the volunteers for their part in making this event memorable, inclusive, and community building. Okay. I was invited by Green Principal Mr. Benavides to visit Green Middle School. And during my tour, I had the opportunity to visit classrooms and wanted to give a shout out to Mrs. Wars and Mrs. Goldsworthy's class, as their co-taught and hands-on science lesson demonstrated the magic and power of co-teaching, as students used these pullback cars to learn about energy transfer. And I just really wanted to thank the Principal Benavides and Assistant Principals Ms. Kwan and Ms. Tassa for taking the time out of their very busy days to show me the fantastic work that the teachers, teacher teams, and students are doing at Green. I also attended Pali's theater production of Little Women, the musical, and I want to congratulate the Pali theater teacher, Sarah Thurmond, and the entire cast and crew of Little Women. My son and I saw the performance on closing night, and in the words of Joe, it was truly astonishing. Especially astonishing that they put, I love musicals, so this is me being short on musicals, but that they put this incredible show together in only 4 weeks. As I was explaining it to my son, they did this in 4 weeks. How did they do that, Mommy? I don't know. So that, I just special shout out there. I also attended Gun Monte Vista September 22nd football game, and the thanks here and the celebration here is to the Gun dance team teacher, Stephanie Anderson Ferris, and the Titanette dancers. They organized a junior dance team opportunity for children, and it was clear from watching the children perform with the varsity dance team that these kids not only gained confidence, skills, and team building, but now they have new role models through their experience with these Gun High School dancers. And last but not least, a huge thank you and shout out to Lisa Hall, Student Activities Director at Gun, and Matt Hall, Gun Japanese teacher, who was extraordinarily involved for their work in making the Gun Nighttime Rally a huge success. I was honored to be asked to judge, as you mentioned earlier, with Dee Brienza and board member Letta Myrick, and had a wonderful time judging air bands, and a special shout out to the staff. Their Barbie-themed staff dance. If anyone, I have it, but it was an incredible dance. And as a teacher, I remember being part of like the staff dance, and it is so amazing for teachers to put themselves out there and kind of make fools of themselves and be part of the celebration. And their dance was honestly very good. And the last thing is just one of the student board members mentioned that for the first time in 10 years, there was a tie. That you haven't won in 10 years. No, I'm going to tell you why it wasn't ever. So because when I was there at the homecoming rally, it brought back memories. Class of 98, yes, and we still remember. We lost to the juniors. So as you're maybe feeling a little uneasy about the tie, just know 25 years ago, it's not unprecedented. And I've gotten through it and I'm doing okay. Just joking. So thank you. I just had a lot of special shout outs. It was an amazing night rally, and we are doing incredible things in this district, and I'm proud to be part of it.
Okay. I will try to be quick too. The most important thing that I actually wanted to start the meeting with, but obviously had some other issues to discuss, so I'll mention it now. I hope that everyone keeps an eye out for the Safe Streets for All Safety Action Plan survey that the city is putting out. And maybe we can even get that into a weekly update at some point. But I think we can all acknowledge that there have been a lot of serious accidents, close calls with PAUSD students, with other students, with adults, just with cars and bikes and cars and pedestrians. It's been really scary. And many parents in the district especially, but in the city at large, have come to city school liaison meeting, to our safety meetings, have contacted us about making it safer for their kids to travel around town. And this survey is really looking at what percentage of this city are interested in prioritizing bike safety and prioritizing more dedicated lanes and making sure to put in more safety measures. So keep an eye out for the Safe Streets for All Safety Action Plan. The city is putting it out. It's open for, I think, the entire month of October and maybe even into November. And the more of us that do it, the more feedback the city's going to have about what we really care about and what we're really worried about. There's even an interactive map where you can point out concerning places if you are a biker or a pedestrian that has certain spots in mind. So that's an ask for the community to please do. I won't repeat some of the great things that Ms. Siegel talked about, Little Women, the middle school SoCal fundraising concert was phenomenal. But Spirit Week at both schools, again, continued to, anytime I get kind of bummed out, just get to one of these, the float building, the air bands, the spirit dance, the competitions. I think both principals would say that their entire student body really got into the school spirit of being a team and being, there wasn't concerning competitive behavior. It was really, they were really well behaved and really enjoyed themselves at the same time. And to those of you whose students, parents or students yourselves, who may not really participate in these, I encourage you to check them out, to go on the first day to float building and try it out. Both my kids that have now been through high school said, there's no way I'm going to that float building thing. And I just got them to go, and they were all in from minute one. And I think that's true for a lot of students. And I think freshman year, you see it in the numbers, not that many students participate, and they see how much fun it is. And the next year they come and it grows each year. So I encourage everyone to just give it a try. And I think they're all very welcoming. If you show up to dance, if you show up to help with floats, the teams are getting really, really good at creating floats that have a lot of entry points for a lot of people that might not have a lot of expertise. And it's really an opportunity to have that sort of traditional high school experience. So that was fun. Okay, that was long. Anything?
No, I'm not going to add, other than to say, I went to Pally, and when I was a junior, we beat the seniors. So
Okay.
none of it's
We've got
unprecedented.
Lots of examples. Nothing. Okay, well then if that is it, this meeting is adjourned.